other day in the hallway. You're singing "Oh Happy Day."
One word prayer. Justice, where are you?
Whoa!
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was busy. Sorry.
Whoa!
Just warming up for the show.
Yeah, I'm drinking iced mango drinks, and you're drinking what is
This
that
is a
supposed to be?
handle.
By the way, I'm Linda Ketty Bond, and that is Michael Bryant. Do not
Yes.
confuse the two of us.
That's right. We're never in the same place at the same time, so people may think we're the same person. We'll talk about this when we get to the Sarah Boone moratorium postmortem and talk about her potential sentencing. How are you? Everything good?
Everything's good. I actually, for our viewers, we took the night off last night. We weren't preparing for the show today because it was my birthday. Okay, by the way, that was just a little secret. And I actually went out with my husband. I posted the pictures on Instagram, Facebook. Got dressed up, pretended to be like a normal person, and we went out for dinner. And nice. I even had two like real let you in 2 real drinks, 2 champagnes.
Wow, crazy!
I know, just a crazy woman, crazy
birthday.
woman.
Good
Thank
for
you, everybody. Yeah, thanks everyone. So, Michael, last time I saw you, and I know we're going to talk about this later in the show, you were riding a suitcase down the courthouse in Sarah Boone. But there's been like something happening, not happening in the other case that we're covering, the YSL case. Thank you, Donna. The YSL case out in Georgia. Now, I know you've been feeling around with our sources. What do you got?
Yeah, this is where we reveal the exact agreement that's been entered into between Fonnie Willis and the different defendants. But we can't. They're very tight-lipped about it. And I've talked to folks on the ground there. And even finding out when they're going to reveal what they've done is rather tricky. So all we know at this point is that they're supposed to reconvene tomorrow, normal time. But we don't know why. We don't know if it's to put something on the record in terms of a deal. We don't know if it's to continue evidence. It's unclear whether the jury has been asked to report tomorrow or have been waived off yet another day. So we got a lot of nothing official anyway. We do know that even those folks that normally chat with us are mum right now.
Oh, that means that there's no leaks coming from people that have been on our show.
And I appreciate that. I do. And it also means that they're probably close to something, whether it happens or not, close to something. And we've talked before about all the variables, from plea deals that included jail time to plea deals that equated to time served. And maybe some of the parties would take deals and others would continue on with the trial. All kinds of variables. I thought it would be a good idea to kind of set up how we got here as we wait for some sort of resolution. So I've got a few little tidbits.
And as a lawyer, just to tell you, as a lawyer, I mean, I don't know what I would do. I mean, especially if I have young Doug. I mean, I wouldn't want to plead him, but you give me a misdemeanor, I may have to suggest it. But then again, you're pleading to something that you didn't do, which is always the problem.
I thought about that too, and I thought about, remember, one of the big issues is the fact these guys have been in Rice Street for 2+ years.
Right.
If there's a deal they can craft that allows them to be out, whether monitored, not monitored, but at least out OR while they're either continuing the trial or postponing it to a retrial. I think that's going to be a huge factor that will determine whether or not.
And we're working on our sources to get them on the show. As you all know, who've been with us now, we've been covering this as we started this in real earnest after the Labor Day weekend and just trying to get to the inside information. So we're going to stay on it. But Michael, how did we get here? How did we get to this point?
Yes.
Thank you, Disney Nerd, for the happy birthday. Thank you, Monica. Thank you very much, everyone.
Let's look first of all at the star witness, I guess we would call him, because this is the guy. Remember, this is not the first time there was a problem. This is not the first time where somebody popped up like whack-a-mole to say we need a mistrial. This one, though, was, I don't know, was it the straw that broke the camel's back? It's still uncertain. But this is, on the stand is a guy named Slime Life Shanti, also known as One-E Lee, which is interesting because both names could be rap names. Anyway, so let's go to that testimony where he is being quizzed by the prosecution about a particular post.
Published 37 NN. Who is in 37 NN?
OG Boo. OG Boo.
And who is that?
Shannon.
All right. And can you read for the jury the caption?
Read his caption.
Yes.
Said ain't nothing more compatible than a trench. A carbon while in the trenches.
Now watch this.
And then is there a hashtag?
Hashtag no slime left behind. Hashtag 2Bs. Life size.
And
And is there another hashtag?
Free Quay.
Is there another hashtag on the screen?
Oh no.
Your Honor.
It's in this paper
Your
right here.
Honor.
You got me reading.
Your Honor, I have to make a motion.
All right, I'm gonna excuse.
I wasn't looking at the screen. I was looking at this paper.
That's fine, don't worry about it. Can I ask you to step outside for just a minute? And jury, I'll excuse you all for just a minute.
okay, so what we just saw was the inadvertent reading of the post. Now here's what happened.
Wait a second. Are you putting inadvertent in quotation marks?
Well, okay. Well, yes, because I'm giving the witness the benefit of the doubt, not the
Good.
prosecution.
Good.
No. The prosecution is just, what's the S word I've used to some criticism? Stupid. So they have on the screen, okay, they have on the screen this quote with part of it missing. And let me show you how they've, but the hard copy, it's not missing, okay? So let me show you, let me see if I can pull this up here. This is, really the most important part of the post. Let me pull that up here, stand by. Okay, this is the post, and you can see where that part I've circled is blank, right?
Right.
That's where it says free Quay. It says hashtag free Quay. But he's not reading from this document. I'm sorry, he's reading from the document. This is the screen, which if he had read it from the screen, he would see a blank. They gave him the unredacted hard copy.
Well,
So-
that's you say that's stupid. I say that could be sloppy. I say that
Oh, it's
could
very
be
sloppy.
sly. I say that could be sly too, because the judge is covered for all of them. And the S words aren't all bad, by the way, when I'm reading everyone. Subscribe and share. Yes, S words are not all bad, but stupid, sly, and sloppy in this trial, could be really bad. And by the way, thank you, Jeannie and Angie, again. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Michael, so inadvertent meaning.
Well, again,
what you feeling?
I think the witness, especially as you hear him continue, I think he realized, I wasn't supposed to read that, but I got two things here, and I'm reading the one that's right in front of me, and it's on there. And she kept pressing for the hashtags.
And who
she
put
kept
it in front of
pressing.
him? Right. And
Yeah, any other hashtags? And then when Free Quay came out, and by the way, there's a real question as to who Quay is, because there are a lot of Quays in this case, but I'll get this wrong. Quamarvius Nichols is the one to which, if attached, is most prejudiced by that statement, right? We're not sure. There are a couple of other Quays floating around that are really not relevant to this case. So she keeps prodding him, and sure enough, he comes up with the wrong answer, essentially. So now let's pick up where...
but he was given, stop it. He was given that paper.
Stop it.
Stop it. The wrong answer. He was given that paper by who? Not the defense.
Oh, of course not.
He was given by
in
the
fact,
prosecution.
as the prosecution was alibying for what went wrong, they mentioned that Nicole Westmoreland, who is Nichols' attorney, one of his attorneys, came over to the prosecution and said, hey, you got to get rid of this Free Quay thing. Well, they only did it on the screen, not on the document. Okay, so.
Thank you, Becky. Thank you. As Michael's looking for what's happening. Thank you, Becky. Thanks for the birthday wishes.
Okay, so let me now go to let's pick up where we left off. Obviously, the judge has said, okay, let's take a break. Jury members, why don't you go out and, take a comfort break. And then the analysis, as it were, continues.
insert error into this trial to make y'all ask for a mistrial so that they can try this case again. I think it is continued, and I am sorry, y'all have, this gigantic, ginormous universe of evidence that maybe if you narrowed down, you would not be making these kinds of mistakes, but I believe that to be a mistake.
Your Honor,
So I'm going to deny a motion for a mistrial with prejudice. That one, I don't believe that the facts bear out. Would you like a mistrial without prejudice?
yes.
You would? Who else would? That means, of course, that the state would be free to try every one of y'all again.
Judge, just a moment.
Sure.
Now, I think the person saying just a moment, I think was Steele. It might have been Shart, but it was certainly one of those folks who they're starting to process. Okay, what does a withdrawal? What does a dismissal without prejudice mean to my guy? We're not looking to sit in jail for another 2 years while this thing is vamped up.
Well, I also think they were surprised because this judge is like, I'm denying motion from this trial and things that are really serious. Now, would you like?
Anybody else want one? Anyone?
Hey,
you get a car. You get a mistrial. You get a mistrial. So what about her answer, which wasn't exactly full-throated? It was like, yes. Do you want a mistrial?
She's probably like looking at the other attorneys like, yes. Well, my guy's in jail. Yeah.
Yes, I'll have one, please. Yeah, I don't think she thought that through.
Thank you for the happy birthday, and thank you for the you look beautiful. I know that's to me, not to Michael.
Of course. So that was Nicole Westmoreland who made the soft yes, and may have.
But she's got a client in jail, right? So the first thing you'd say is, "Oh, let me do it." But someone points out, didn't the prosecution ask him to read, or didn't he say, I'm reading off the paper, the witness that you gave me. I'm reading off the paper you gave me. So now this is like a Sophie's choice. Do you want to take a mistrial, not take a mistrial? And I think the answer is no. We want a deal, right? Michael,
what do you think about the offer or the hesitancy the judge said, I'm not going to give you one with prejudice? I don't think that's proper under the facts. What do you think?
Well, if you take what you have, that they're sloppy and stupid, okay, it's without prejudice. But there's so many mistakes here, over and over and over and over again. And she says to them, you've got this stuff that you've decided to do. No wonder you're going to have mistakes after this. I think at some point she's going to say, hey, you're going to take it on the chin. That's it with prejudice. It's got to be with prejudice.
And if you think about it, the injured party then in that circumstance is the state, right? Because they're done. They can't bring the matter again and it's over. It's not like an individual or a defendant or a group of defendants have their rights stripped from them. This is the state acting improperly over and over and over and over again without any sort of punishment. And in fact, help along the way.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right. Now we do have a comment there. That's very good, Princess. I'm not sure I'm going to say your name right. I'm just going to call you Princess. Matthew's attorney, he represents the other Quay, is the one who said just a moment.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes. And so there was one more element to my little presentation here. Let me see if I
love your presentation.
Like my presentation?
Yeah,
let's see. This one is, let me see if I can remember when I put the notes in here. This is the S word coming from the judge.
Trying to do is fix your sloppiness so that everybody won't have wasted, 10, 12 months of their lives in this trial.
Actually, she doesn't even count jury selection. As we know, when does trial begin?
It was 2 years ago.
With jury selection.
Jury selection,
people think that jury selection is kind of pre-trial, but no, it is the very start of trial. So that was that. And again, now we sit and wait to see what's been crafted. I would love to have been in Fonnie's office when these different exchanges took place. And we believe that a counteroffer was presented to her. I'm sure she made some sort of ridiculous offer. And then the defendants got together and individually and as a whole decided what they could and couldn't handle, then resubmitted that to her. We understand that's where it is now. I'd love to have been in her office just watching her fume and fret over, this debacle that she's created.
Yeah, I mean, the judge is trying to fix their sloppiness. First of all, the judge shouldn't have to fix their sloppiness. I understand
No.
what she's saying, and she doesn't want the jury to be imposed upon after sitting there for all this time. I think that was mainly her concern. She doesn't really care about the state at this point. Although, I mean, you can't fix this case. You're right, Missy Mayhem. You can't. Our guest the other day who could host this show. You can't fix this case. It's so messy. And the problem, you have here, people say, well, you're going to let street thugs on the street. Well, there's been no proof yet of that. There's been no proof of RICO, and things they have pled to. They've already pled to, almost like a double jeopardy, where people don't realize you can bring it as a RICO action, as not a crime, but as an element, right, of a RICO case. And people are saying, hey, look, if you got a case, prove it. This case is about justice. This case is about it. Does the system work or does it not work?
Yep, and I've heard people say, but these guys, aren't these bad guys? Aren't they criminals? I don't know. We have to focus on this case and the evidence in this case about alleged acts. I don't know their history, and it shouldn't come into this trial unless there's a conviction, a felony conviction, and there have been some, and they have come in. But I'm not gonna say these guys deserve to be convicted of something because they are generally bad guys. That's just not the way it works.
And there's been no proof against Young Thug, about Jeffrey Williams, who's the lead defendant's case. That's who they were after, right? They're after the big guy. They're after
almost
the
because
head of the mafia, right?
Almost because they feel like, oh, he's gotten away with so much over the years. He's the one fish we haven't caught in our net.
Yeah,
so
and
let's use RICO.
And they're using lyrics in property. They're using lyrics to indicate that it's 24 bullets when it's talking about, a tattoo on his head, a grill on his head, that he got temporarily. I mean, it's just the whole case is awful. Here Comes Drama says it's laughable.
If it wasn't so sad, it would be laughable,
Yeah, if it wasn't so sad. But I tell you, the one thing it has done, it's taken people across all of it. Look at it. If you of our viewers who are looking at this, right? We're not identifying ourselves whether by our racial identities, black, white, yellow, purple. We're not identifying by our socioeconomic backgrounds. We're all identified and coming into this together. In this case, which you almost can't believe that this would be the case, right? And saying this is unfair. This is not right. And that's what you're seeing here, I think.
That little statue, the Lady Justice, what's she wearing? Blindfold, right? And that's the way it's supposed to be. So if you start mixing in the racial component, if you have some biases against certain socioeconomic levels, then, luckily you're not on the jury. But yeah, you just can't do that. So I'm very anxious to see what the heck they come up with. Got some very creative legal minds involved in this. We know that.
And you know what I'm anxious to see, Michael?
What's that?
The jury, because they're going to be talking to us. The ones that if this case ends, I mean, the jury, what have they been thinking?
Yeah, and what would they think if, now they've already invested nearly a year, if it's the rug's pulled out from under them? They're going to be relieved on one hand and pissed off on the other, I think. I remember sitting in court next to Yak Gotti's mom. Yak Gotti, of course, Doug Weinstein's client. And
Doug has been on our show a number of times.
We hope to get him back.
But he's not a leaker.
He's not a leaker. No. And so, and neither is Yak Gotti's mom, Tasha. So we're just chatting. And one of my questions was, where'd you get that name? Meaning Yak Gotti. And I'm assuming Gotti from New York, kind of a gangster. Yak, I don't know. Is that a slang term for something else? I'm extremely white. I don't know. But she wasn't sure either, but she did tell me, she said she'd be ready to talk when this trial was over. So obviously I will be following up with that. But at the time I said, well, I'll be dead when this trial's over. So I don't know if that was going to happen, but now maybe it's over sooner rather than later.
And Michelle, thank you. And this is a really good point. I mean, I hadn't thought about that. I believe that the prosecution made the last mistake, and the judge was ordered to offer mistrial because Fani wants defendants to turn on Jeffrey Williams. I wonder if that's part of the plea that was offered other people. We'll give you a time served, but you've got to testify against Jeffrey Boone. Wouldn't that be incredible? But I wouldn't put it past her. I wouldn't put it past her.
No,
Remember, she runs a re-election.
Remember, there were 29 original defendants, right? And the rest, other than these 6 now trials, they took deals, and most of them have been paraded up to the witness stand. In fact, the one making this mistake, again, pick a name, One-E Lee or Slime Life Shanti, either name. He's the guy that made the mistake, and it was all part of his plea deal to testify in this case. So very interesting. I can't wait to see where this goes next. I have to be brutally honest. Would it be wrong if I'm sad if it's over? Would that be wrong?
Well, you know why? The only reason I'd say so is because we have been able to shine a light, if it goes over, on the inequities of the criminal justice system. So that gets pulled out from under us. But the problem is that we don't want to keep people in jail who aren't guilty of
I
the
know.
crime under which
I
they're
know.
charged.
Obviously.
I mean, then we're just like gosh darn media, and we're not gosh darn media. We're Brian and Baden. We're Justice Serve TV because we want to find justice wherever it is, wherever it goes worldwide.
So I was a little too honest there. Sorry, but I guarantee you there are people that feel exactly the same way, that probably eat, sleep, drink, breathe this case.
Yeah, and we don't know
whatever reason they might.
Right? We don't know if it's going to be over, and we don't know. I tell you what, I don't trust this office after what I've seen. And I'm going to put the other case that's here goes into it. That's the Trump case, and we've had Ashley Merchant on, who represents one of those defendants on. You all know that I'm a bleeding heart liberal. I'm a Democrat. Michael ribs me all the time, but
I'm a reasonableist. So go ahead.
To use both of these cases in RICO just seems to me an overreach. And I use RICO in my civil cases, by the way. I have a major case right now where I'm using RICO, and I think it's appropriate, a civil statute. But to use RICO in these cases where you're batting people because you're keeping them under the gun of the justice system for days and hours and weeks and months and maybe years to try to force something that you want because you have a political career. And let me tell you, I don't think Fani Willis is finished in her political career. I think she's going to be governor, senator, whatever. And I think that has a lot to do. The prosecutors get in there and they want to run for office. And we've seen it. We've seen it in Massachusetts.
Of course. Prosecutors politically motivated? No, I'm shocked that you would even think that. Hey, good question by Finding Good. It just disappeared, but in my memory bank, I heard it. It was, can the jury be gagged? No. I mean, there's a little something called the First Amendment. You may have heard about it. I know it's becoming very unpopular in this country to some, but no, they have no obligation to talk, but they have no prohibition from talking either. So Some, as we know from experience, LKB, some will flee like cockroaches in a room when the lights are turned on. They want nothing to do with anybody, but there's always a few that want to share their experience.
Well, part of it is, you and I are real trial lawyers, right? I've tried a lot of cases. I think when they think that they're not just entertainment either. Just like this trial, if someone put on there, who are you who said this wasn't entertainment? Come on, put yourself back in, okay? Because it's not entertainment either. But I think the jurors then feel, okay, we're going to make our hit. We're just entertainment, and then the media has nothing to do with us right afterwards. And I think that really should be the law, should not be entertainment. It's here comes drama, right? Absolutely. I think we should try to do something more. And that's the problem. And that's why I'd love to have the jurors come on, stay on, be some of our guests. I think that talking to jurors is the most important thing you can do.
It is so great.
Case, right?
And I think, maybe I'm too Pollyanna-ish, but I think talking to jurors helps everybody hear what they think about the process, right? There is an element of entertainment. I'm sorry. There's an element of entertainment to get people to want to watch. And maybe what they learn is kind of a subliminal, but they learn along the way. I call that infotainment. You're getting some information and you're entertained along the way. And these folks are doing yeoman's duty. The longest trial I ever did was about 6 weeks. And, at that point, you feel like the jury's part of your family. And when you talk to them afterwards, those that will talk, you hear weird things. At that particular case, I was asking, I want to know about my performance. I want to know about opposing counsel's performance. One of the things that stood out to them was that opposing counsel wore a white belt. White belt's kind of maybe if you're an old guy golfing, but that for some reason made an impact on them. I'm like, really? So it just goes to show you, jurors are just humans. They focus on a variety of things. With any luck, it's the evidence presented so they can come to the right conclusion. So.
Right, that's right. Kev, if you got a problem with me interrupting, this is our show. This is Michael, Brian, and I do that. No problem. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be interrupting and bringing conversation to this whole system.
I missed that. What was it? Somebody
Michael's
said,
put it in a batter.
Yeah, I'm going to get a bumper sticker for that one.
And let you know that if he does that, I have hostages. I have his stuff from long time. I got all his stuff. I got his whole family here. He doesn't get them back. He doesn't get them back.
Okay, so so keep it clean there.
He gets them back. He gets them back. Oh, let's see.
Just we're arranging a face-to-face, maybe.
Right,
Might even be as early as next week.
Without a doubt, he gets it back. Yeah, next week, hopefully a week from Wednesday, we're going to actually be in the same room here.
And then I might give you one of these.
And I might get a cup, and we'll be in the same room talking because Michael is going to be in here to why don't we jump to the third case?
You want to skip right over Boone, come back to
We'll come back to Boone.
I think this is one of the most fascinating cases in a while, maybe because it has similar feel to George Floyd.
But why are you going to be getting here then?
Well, this is New York versus Daniel Penny. And this is the case in which the former Marine, 26 years old, I believe he is accused of alternatively manslaughter or negligent homicide in the death of Jordan Neely. Depending on how he's been characterized, you get a feel for how the publication leans in this case, and it's very, very divided down the middle. This guy was either a good Samaritan saving others on the subway. Let me finish the setup here. Jordan Neely, a street performer, homeless guy, had history with some drug issues, but he was on the subway, the F train, on May 1 of 2023. Some subway riders who were with him felt uncomfortable. He started making threats of some sort, all of this to become much more clear at trial. Anyway, Daniel Penny steps in, puts the guy in a chokehold, and basically wrestles him to the ground and holds him in that chokehold for about 2-3 minutes until he ultimately dies. Now, if we're going to jump ahead here, and I think, for those who may not quite remember exactly what happened, there's no audio on this, thankfully. I took that off. So you see Penny there laying on his back, and you see Jordan Neely in that chokehold. You also see two other people sort of helping out a little bit. One seems to be trying to restrain him, and the other guy, who just put his hands on his shoulder, I don't think he's really doing much of anything. The guy in front of him is really, wrestling with both those arms. Nobody else was charged in the case. Nobody else was indicted. So this is solely a case against Mr. Penny. And it is currently in jury selection. And it ain't going well, from what I hear. What's happening is, and I find this ironic, I had thought, of course, there's a racial component, right? And that's where the George Floyd-esque issue comes in. Key difference, of course, Linda, is that Daniel Penny was not a cop. Okay?
Right, he's not a cop.
Former military, former Marine. So that's a huge difference. And you have his defense is really the defense of others, right? Because others on the subway felt like they might be threatened. That's his interpretation. So you can defend yourself as a defense. You can have the defense of others as a defense. And so that's where this is going. So the issue I found interesting was, Linda, they want to get a jury of his peers, of course. That's the theory. In New York, and you can testify to this better than I, because I'm not in the city every day. Not everybody uses the subway, right? Not everybody would experience anything near what Daniel Penny experienced.
Well, not everyone uses the subway, right? But a lot of people use the subway. And the jurors who are going to Center Street, they're going to be using, guess what, Michael? The subway. And the reporters going to Center Street to cover, except for maybe you and maybe me, are going...
Here's the deal on that, though.
I'm from New Jersey. Are you going to be using the subway? So what's the deal?
Here's the deal. And the Judge Wiley, said, first of all, let me give you a sense of the jury collection process. 450 people called in. And
I'm pointing to Tall Glass, okay? Yes, I do remember you from Long Crime. You found us.
450 people called in last week. They whittled it down to about 100, and I think it was 149. And then they broke from that into smaller groups for secondary and questioning. The judge told this group, "Hey, you only get $40 a day here from the city. If your employer won't pay you, and most don't pay forever, and it's supposed to be a 6-week trial, raise your hand." He also said, if you are an hourly worker, then all you have to do is basically tell us that it's going to be a hardship. Well, who are you getting rid of with those kind of parameters? You're getting rid of the people who more likely ride the subway. Okay. Unless they, if they work in the government complex there, the government's going to pay. Okay, they're not a private employer. It's the government. Taxpayers will pay for those people to be on jury duty, but not, the guy who's a plumber, the guy who's working at a store somewhere, the woman who's a waitress, the guy who's a waiter. Those people are hourly employees. They're more likely to take the subway because it's cheaper. And now they're being somewhat excluded from the mix. And so I think as of earlier today, they didn't have one juror impaneled, and the judge wants all 12 by the end of this week.
Yeah, but it's really interesting that you say that, because I tend to take when I'm going to places, usually because I'm in a rush, Ubers or a taxi, a yellow cab or whatever.
Now, let me just say this. I've been on the subway many times. I've never seen Chanel on the subway. All right. So that's all I'm going to say.
I'm undercover. I know, but when you get into a taxi or an Uber right now, it could cost you $100. Very few people can afford that.
Exactly.
Even those going to jury duty. Even if you're going to go to jury duty for 6 weeks, you can't afford that unless you've got the ability to make an excuse. But I tell you, they're going to get people on there because they got Weinstein. They have Weinstein.
They've made it harder, is what I'm getting at.
Right.
And the judge is now finding that out. And now you have to find somebody that works hourly that would normally take the subway. And it's not going to be a hardship for them. It just makes the process more difficult.
No, it makes the process more. But it's going to be very interesting because we are going to be covered that. We're going to go back to YSL here, and then we're going to go back to Sarah Boone on the show. But we are going to be covering that. Michael's going to be in there more often than probably I will. I'll probably be hanging out here trying to get you all organized. And a couple of things I want to make about this point, Michael, in terms of covering it. I'm going to be doing an interview. I won't tell you what it's about, but it's about the Penny case, and it's with the subway rider on Wednesday. I don't know if we're going to have it ready for the Wednesday show or whether we'll promo it and deal with it next week to see what subway riders think about what's going on.
That's a good idea.
To your point, right?
Yeah, that's a good idea. Point.
The second thing is, I think I want to throw it out to our viewers who are always here. Usually we do Wednesday at 1:00 as our show, and we were trying to keep it that way, right, Michael, because of lunch hours. So we come out and things happen on lunch hours, we want to talk about it. But, let us know what you think, whether we should do 5 or 6 o'clock on Wednesdays, or keep it at 1, or keep it fluid, and then just let you weigh in on that day. Because obviously, for instance, tomorrow, if all this comes out about what we expect to come out about YSL, I mean, we may want to talk at lunch hour, or Michael will. Unfortunately, I have another job. It's called being a lawyer once in a while. But we want to let you know that Justice Serve TV will be on top of it. And, and if Michael's going to have a show with a guest, for instance, we'll let you know, and we'll be posting that. Okay, yes, Becky, my jacket is very Chanel because unfortunately it is Chanel.
See?
He knows me. He knows when I'm wearing Chanel.
Okay, so because I took the time to chop these up, I'm going to show a couple more clips as it relates to Mr. Penny, because first of all, so we can, they actually have, pretty decent attorneys, but this is Mr. Penny. You see him when he's not laying on his back, putting somebody in a chokehold. This is all most people are going to see, him coming and going from court, because it is New York, where cameras are not prohibited. It's up to the discretion of the judge, and no judge has had the guts to do that. So I think we have a couple of quick bites here from the attorneys. First, his attorney.
We're here for jury selection today. I think this is going to be, and it is, a very simple case that's easy for the jury to deliberate on. The facts of the case is this. Someone got on the train and was screaming, and someone choked that person to death. Those things will never balance out, and there's no justification that can make those things balance out.
Mills.
It's a very important part of the trial. Okay. We're happy to see that there's progress to getting to the truth in this case. We feel that the truth is only going to come out through this trial. There's a lot of evidence that people aren't aware of. There's a lot of assumptions that have been made that are going to be dispelled once we have all the evidence. And right now our job is to make sure that we have a fair and impartial jury that can give Danny a fair trial that he deserves.
Okay, so the first one was Dante Mills. He represents the family of Jordan Neely. I think that was Jordan Neely's father standing next to him, if I'm not mistaken. And the second one would be the trial attorneys for Penny, right, Michael?
Yes. And so, just to give everybody a little better feel or you know, some background on the victim as well, which I think is important, let's take a look at a little of that. Let me find that for you. This is Times Square where he was doing his thing. Now, it's been said that he had drugs in his system at the time, which is a synthetic cannabinoid, I believe, which is going to be key to the defense in the case. They're going to say he didn't die from this chokehold. He died because of the drugs in his system. That does have a little George Floyd-ish ring to it, right?
Right, it does have it. And quite frankly, if you're going to get a New York jury and that's going to be your defense, so Michael, I'm walking down the street in New York. I had to walk from up the Upper East Side down to, I accidentally had dropped my phone today. So before I can get to my next appointment, I had to get to the store. Okay. Yes, it's cracked. Yes, it's cracked. And yes, they will be replacing it because I went for Apple Care. But the point is that you're walking 30 blocks in New York City. By the time I get to the Apple store, I'm stoned because it's everywhere. Okay. I mean, if this is,
you say that like it's a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. If this is going to be the defense, that's the point. Is like, what are you guys with the military haircuts and the ties down to your, what's talking about? This is a New York jury. Talk to them like it's a New York jury. And a lot of people knew the victim because of that. And what you're not seeing there is that he's really tiny. As a matter of fact, he probably could fit into the suitcase that Sarah Boone killed George in, which is probably what we're going to next talk about.
Yeah, hey, it's a good segue. Let me see if there are any other details I'd mention or should mention as we get ready for this thing. Again, they're hoping for a jury by the end of the week, and then 6 weeks allegedly for the trial. Of course, the defense is going to be huge, and I have to imagine that Mr. Penny will take the stand. He's again, it's a little different because it's not a self-defense claim per se. It's a defense of others. So others will clearly be taking the stand to talk about what they saw in the subway, what concerned them, that they felt their lives were in danger or that they might suffer serious bodily injury. Therefore, good for Daniel Penny to step in. I still think there's better than 50-50 shot he'll take the stand as well. So
yeah, I think he probably has to. But you're going to be covering it for Justice Served TV. You've got your press credentials. You're going to pick them up next week from Wednesday, and then be into that courtroom on different days.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a fascinating case. And again, because there are no cameras in the courtroom, and I'm pretty sure, I won't know for sure till next week, it won't have the leniency of the Orlando court. That Orlando court is great, except when your phone rings and you get caught for your phone ringing. Didn't happen to me. But, you can text in there. You have your laptop in there. It's great. I'm not so sure they're going to allow that in the criminal court in Manhattan. They may be, maybe like you have to lock your phone.
Yeah, that's the way it was. That's the way it was in
with the Trump thing.
Weinstein. Yeah, and the Trump thing on Weinstein.
Yeah, so I hate that. Oh, speaking of one, as we transition to Boone here,
right?
I was talking to somebody yesterday who was in the courtroom for the verdicts. I came back a day early, and I learned, that the one guy, there were 6 people on the jury. One guy, the African-American guy who was in the back row, and then 5 women.
Right.
But that wasn't as interesting as what happened to this person who was in if you were watching when the closing arguments were going, somebody's phone went off. And it's happened before. It happened when I was in there, not me. And the judge says, turn off your phones, please. Very, very matter of fact, right? Well, he said that. Again, if you saw the closings, I'm sure you noticed this. And then the phone went off again. And he said, get out now. Well, I know the person that happened to. I'm not going to out the person. But I will just say she was mortified.
I always shout out first offense, Your Honor.
She's a professional. She's been in
offense.
courtrooms forever. It's never happened before. And I said, "Oh, that was you." It's like, because I mean, when it went off the second time, that's when the judge lost it. Okay, should we talk?
Before we're going to talk about Sarah Boone, okay? But I do want to talk about the segue into this. Yes, I thought my partner had lost when he rolled some suitcase down on the Sarah Boone.
Hey, come
Orlando,
on!
having been to Orlando for Casey Anthony advertised, when he rolled that suitcase down, I thought, oh my God, what have I done to this poor co-host?
I was killing some time. There was a few moments where it was just nobody wandering by. So I
thought I was going to die, but that's what. But I have told Dizzy to cut that, and I want to in our promo you riding down.
Yeah, for those who don't know what we're talking about, because it's certainly been underviewed, in my opinion.
It has.
You
really
can check it out. It's the conversation with other Orlandians, I think what I'll call them, who were there for various reasons at court. Some to get married, some had other issues, and you want to find out what everybody thought about the Boone case, or if they even knew about it. So check that out. Just 4 or 5 minutes of in detailed reporting. Very serious.
Yeah, we'll see what they're talking about. But you did find the one couple. Congratulations that they ever see us on their marriage. You did find the one.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about Boone.
Okay, let's talk
about
Boone.
What did you all think of the verdict, Michael?
I was a little surprised that it seemed to go so quickly. I always felt that there might be one person, and we know that of the 5 women, one had domestic violence history. I thought maybe she would somehow, those issues would resonate with her to the point it would be thought. I mean, it was 2 hours from time they left the room to go deliberate to the time they had the verdict. So there wasn't a lot of reflection, not a lot of second thoughts, it seems to me. That's just enough time for everybody to talk about the case. Of course, pick a 4-person. And see if they're in agreement, and if there are little things they're not, how do they fine-tune that? Because second-degree murder was the top charge, and that's what she was found guilty of. No, I guess not a lot of thought given to the manslaughter charge or the culpable negligence, much lesser charge. So now we're looking at sentencing. But I thought before we got into a discussion on that, first let me get your thoughts. But I know there was one point in time in this case, and I say that almost purposely a double entendre in the case. There was that moment where she was testifying and cross-examination took place, right? You remember this? Okay,
let's see. Oh yes, here we go. I had definite views about this.
Look at this. He's now going to sit on it and ride it around the courtroom. It's unbelievable. Now, this is, at which point are you objecting to this?
By the way, start pushing weight again. If George had weighed more, maybe she couldn't have done this, which is a really sad thought that you took advantage of him. Great content. Your channel is going places fast. I object. Not yet.
You don't wait. You wait till she comes down and touches it, or what?
Ms. Boone,
right there is where I object. Well, I would have objected before.
Where Mr. Torres
I would have objected when they first said we're bringing her up to talk about it.
Right. Because the last thing you want,
is feet are kind of down here, which would be the front
and she's
left
touching
corner
it.
from their perspective in the jury box.
Her boyfriend died and she killed him.
And then his knees are kind of.
You want to be shown. You want to object right away. We had this in the Jason Williams case, and I was actually doing the consulting now off screen, but I had a direct feed into the trial team. And when they asked the prosecution, so can Mr. Williams come off the stand and hold his gun? It was like, object! I couldn't type it fast enough with my nail.
And that of course makes much more sense. People see, it's a gun, it's the weapon. Well, this is the weapon.
There's no difference. Look at this. They're going to have her like she's a. Should she be wearing gloves?
That's what when I watched this, and I haven't seen this many gloves on people's hands since the proctologist convention. Hey, so I felt I better put my gloves on just to watch this. So they got her in the gloves. They got everybody's in the gloves. It was so prejudicial, I thought.
But that's her attorney. Her attorney
Yes.
Like he's with her. Not only is he not objecting,
He's helping her with the gloves.
He's helping her with the gloves. He's helping her get the thing. I mean, I'm just giving you points in case you all want to go try a case. This is not how you try a case and represent a defendant. The man died in this. This is a coffin. I can't say it loud enough.
In the prosecution used that exact phrase, which I thought was perfect and brilliant. And I think, to talk about James Owens for a moment, the defense attorney, I think he did a pretty good job. Remember how he got there. Remember he was number 9. Remember he answered a flyer. But I think on balance, he zealously represented her.
Yeah, but there's zealous representation, and then there is, and I'm going to.
I don't think this was part of that. This was a mistake. This was really a mistake.
It wasn't going on 9 minutes. It's a 9-minute mistake.
I know. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but I thought it was interesting just to see it.
No, but we can talk over it. It's interesting because as we're watching this, so she's got white gloves, Michael. You have blue gloves. You know.
Well, I'm an amateur. She's a professional. So.
But you say you did a good job. Okay, she's a crazy client, in my opinion. All right, but no, what did I think of the defense's closing? It was horrible. I'm going to say that right now. It was horrible, and all as far as I'm concerned. But Michael was in the courtroom, so I don't want to usurp him.
Yeah, you know, I think you got to consider what he had to work with. I think his style was decent. I think he was personable. But, you know, look at his client. She's unlikable. She may be pushing hateable. She's very unlikable. And what ended up taking her down, in my opinion, was the prosecution's rebuttal.
Is there an objection?
Where they ran all of those videos that she had taken where she was mistreating George, where she was so mean to him and so needy and so blaming. I mean, and he looked like a whipped puppy dog in a lot of those videos. And so you immediately just think, well, now I know what happened that night, you know, and that was no fear for her life. That was her being vengeful and mean. Maybe she never intended him to die, but you got to take responsibility for the ultimate impact of your actions.
So I've said this before. To me, the tragedy of this case is the perfect storm of two alcoholics meeting each other, right? Now, I'm not saying there wasn't a crime. I'm not saying the jury wasn't right. The jury, in my opinion, I would have come down with the same verdict the jury did. That's what I felt about it, the way it was presented. But if you're going to go defend her and you're going to obviously take that ninth and you're going to accept that responsibility, then you've got to defend her differently. You've got to have brain scans on her. You have to see whether alcohol caused some of her brain to die. Just like people that have the, there you go. Oh, now we know Michael's problem.
Now this was full this morning when I opened it for breakfast. Look at it, it's almost.
You're right. He's lying to you. I can tell you that right now.
But I want to talk about that. I want to talk about this. Go ahead and finish your thought.
To talk about, but I think you've got to do that and say this is a perfect storm of two alcoholics, and not that she couldn't form the intent. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that he kind of like this is the relationship, the symbiotic relationship they had as two alcoholics, and that's what led to this, and therefore it wasn't the intent of wanting to kill him. It wasn't even the manslaughter. It was something less than that. Now that may not fly either, but that's how I would approach it, and a lot more medical evidence.
I think it would have had better luck, but you still would have been dealing with a very unlikable client.
Yeah, but you know, I'm always dealing with unlikable clients.
No, that's not true.
Phil Spector was an unlikable client. We got a hung jury on him, and the second attorney got.
What about Aaron Hernandez? He's not unlikable.
Yeah, he was unlikable to some if you read the media at that point.
Well,
Aaron Hernandez had already been convicted of a homicide when we had to try him on a double homicide. Everyone in the courtroom knew he'd been convicted. That's kind of unlikable.
Everybody, I mean, this is hard to believe, but I'm not likable to everybody. And it's hard to believe. I realize everybody has some level of unlikability with a certain group. Okay, let me talk about this. This to me was important because she testified. This is, to me, goes to her histrionic nature where she just exaggerates everything. She was saying that George would get one of these babies and finish it during the course of a day. This is called a handle. Any reason why they call that a handle? Yeah, this is like 2 bottles, okay? There's no way this little squirt is, and I mean that with the most respect, is drinking one of these in a day and then is affected at all by a few glasses of wine. And remember, a regular bottle of wine is about 4 glasses. They were drinking the doubles. That's 8 glasses.
Right.
This, if you can tolerate this and not lapse into a coma, that wine is not going to bother you. So
I
that's
almost
where.
popped into a coma on 2 champagnes for my birthday.
Yes. Well, it's all about tolerance. These are CNS. This is a CNS depressant. I had a case once where Xanax was involved and Halcyon was involved. Those are all CNS depressants. And the person was a heavy drinker. So our case was basically to prove that because she was such a heavy drinker, she wasn't as affected by the Halcyon that our client, mistakenly put in a pill bottle instead of Xanax. Halcyon is like heroin instead of an aspirin. But because she was such a drinker and had such high CNS depressant levels, she could not have been affected. Same thing here. He would never have been able to drink that and then not tolerate a few glasses of wine. It makes no sense.
Becky, I agree with you, by the way, Becky, and I think Michael agrees with you too. It's not that the problem boozer. I just would have handled the case differently. It may have had the same effect, but it would have handled it differently because obviously what they were doing was not going to work and properly represent her. Michael, your problem boozer.
What was that?
Problem bruiser client. Do you think anything? I mean, she was mean, right, Michael?
She was mean. And again, you can fake it on the stand to the degree she did, although she was icy cold. She wasn't personable. There was another moment where she described how she felt when she found George in the suitcase the next day, still there and now dead. She said, "I was aghast." How many times do you use that word in normal conversation? I was aghast. Okay, well, it just was so fake, and there was no emotion tied to it. So I don't know that I've ever been aghast, but I think if I was, it would be very emotional, and she just wasn't.
Yeah, this is your lover that she found dead. I mean,
yeah, she was aghast.
But you know what's interesting? They called her husband to the stand.
Brian.
And she called her husband, and he came right over. There's some reason beyond just like, my ex-wife called me and said George might be dead, that he must have. They still had that relationship. Did that ever become clear?
It not specifically. It wasn't mapped out, but you could tell that they had some weird, codependency that lasted beyond the marriage. She had, she was very dependent on anybody in her orbit, and that's why she probably chased most people away. So she didn't have a lot of friends. She had Brian, and then remember some of the audio and the text messages where she's begging George to come back into her life after she's shit on him, so to speak, kicked him out. Now she's begging him to come back. Well, that's classic. I mean, that's a psychological problem, and that's narcissistic, among other things. I'm no doctor. But I think I could find some that would agree with me that she had those kinds of issues. And so she clinged to Brian to the point that she calls him before 911.
Right. So she gets sentenced on December 2nd. Remember, she was offered a deal for 15 years. So the prosecution thought they may have had some issues with her background or with the defense. But you think the judge is going to now sentence her to
that's interesting
16 to life that she's eligible for?
We have posed that question through our community tab. Let me give you the update, the latest here. And here are the choices. The choices: lightest sentence in Florida for second degree is 20 years. Maximum in Florida for second degree is life without parole. So the judge has a ton of discretion. Then I picked a couple of random spaces, like 30 to 60 years with possibility of parole, 30 to 60 without. Here are the numbers. 52% say give her the max. 52%. And then after that, it's 30 to 60 years with parole. And then 16% say the lightest. And only 8% say 30 to 60, but without parole. So obviously the vast majority say hang it to her. And it's totally in the judge's discretion. We heard it's going to be December 2nd. And it's, I think they've suggested a few hours for each side to give their comments and have their people make the victim impact statements. So it should be a very interesting day.
I hope George rests in peace, because just a horrible, tortuous way to die. Not that dying is ever good, but just horrible when you listen to it and listen to those videos and looked at those videos.
Yeah, his life was hell with her. You could just tell. It was just hell every day, waking up wondering, what's going to be, what's on tap today.
Yeah, as we say here in New York. All right, so Michael, you may be on tomorrow without me. You may be on with me tomorrow.
Did you see Dizzy's note there?
Don't forget the questions and super chats. Okay, yes. On Wednesday, we always want to have, we started last week, Missy Mayhem was on. Disney Nerd was on. We want to have 2 viewers at least come on and ask your questions. And then you can even were taking answers last week, answering our questions to our other viewers live on Wednesday, whether it be at 1 o'clock or whether it be later, 5 or 6. We're going to play it by ear right now. Michelle Corley, I believe the prosecution made this mistake. Yes, we did that with the turn on Jeffrey. Yeah, we'll see tomorrow whether that's
very interesting.
Really
that would be the weirdest wrinkle,
wow.
wouldn't it?
Wow. Yeah. So Rachel Streetman question: say the trial continues and the jury finds count 1 not guilty RICO, will the other counts still stand? The criminal gangs count. I think it's the dominant. I think if they're going to find RICO, they're going to find RICO. I mean, I just think it's going to be all or nothing here. That's my view, because what are you going to find him guilty on? Like the one guy with the marijuana that he already pled guilty to like 7 years ago, or the 3 Xanax pills in the bottom of the car. I mean, I don't even know if you can remember who's with what at this point. And just throw up your hands.
Yeah, Memphis has a good point, and it just speaks to the confusion within the presentation of the case. Memphis talking about Woody being labeled as this co-conspirator when he allegedly did a lot of the criminal activity himself. So
right. So we want our chatters to come in. We're super chatters. We're entertaining super chatters, and just so you know, we are developing behind the scenes for members only, probably to premiere sometime in the future. We'll see about that. But so just tomorrow, we're going to let you know if Michael knows. Watch YSL. I mean, the updates will be Michael will be on. Telling you what's happening. We're going to try to get a guest on, obviously, if there are a plea deal or not plea deals, and it may be tomorrow afternoon, and tomorrow night.
It's a fluid situation.
It's fluid, just as we are for you, because we all know that you're watching all this. So we don't know what's going to happen. If some of the defendants object, if any of them object, if the judge is going to continue on and just say, I'm going to mistrial everything, we just don't know. All we know is that we're all in confusion, and that our sources are mum as to
the one thing I would be most surprised at would be a parsing out of this defendant did this defendant did that, this defendant did this. I think there's got to be a global resolution, or not. That's my thought.
Right. No, double jeopardy doesn't attach. Little do you know that you can then be charged with everything you've pled to in a RICO claim, in a state RICO criminal complaint, and also in a federal criminal complaint. So even though you pled guilty in a state count, it only attaches to another state prosecution for that type of count, but not for RICO. It's a surprise to everybody, and that's why
you can remember those old enough to remember the Rodney King case, which was tried at both the state and the federal levels and had inconsistent verdicts in those cases, one not guilty and one guilty. So
anyhow, so keep your questions coming. Keep your super chats coming. Please tell Dizzy, put it in the chat if you want to be one of the questioners on Wednesday on our show. And Michael, what's your advice to everybody?
So this is where you're telling me to say everybody should try to do the right thing.
And I'm Linda Kenny Bodden, and please subscribe, like, share, and you'll get notified about our channel. We are Justice Served TV.